The morning sun spilled across the quiet village, painting the rooftops and narrow paths in a golden glow. Its warmth carried a promise of peace, the kind of peace James and Diep had longed for. Hand in hand, Diep guided little Nee toward the schoolyard. The girl, once shy and timid, now ran freely to embrace her teacher. Her laughter, light and clear as bells, rang across the playground. James lingered at a distance, watching, his lips curved into a quiet smile. He remembered how Nee once clung to Diep's dress, too afraid to step away. Seeing her bloom now filled him with both relief and wonder. "She's getting used to it here," James said softly, as if speaking the thought aloud. "Yes," Diep replied, her eyes bright with gratitude. For a brief moment, the world felt normal, unburdened. But James had other plans for the day. After leaving the school, he turned to her. "This morning, let's look at tiles for the new house. I want it to feel safe, clean." "Cement floors gather too much dust. With a child, it matters. I want something brighter, something that feels like a true home." Diep's eyes softened. She knew how much care he poured into every choice, not for himself, but for her and little Nee. Together they walked to the roadside shop, where rows of decorative tiles shone under the morning light. "Welcome," the shopkeeper greeted warmly. "Looking for tiles? We have many designs." James bent down, brushing his fingers over a glossy surface. "This one, too bright, isn't it?" he asked. Diep smiled gently. "I like the darker shade. It feels calmer." Like any couple building a future, they debated, light against dark, cost against quality, before settling on a design strong and lasting. The shopkeeper measured, calculated, 60 square meters, 9 million dong. James did not hesitate. Deposit paid, numbers exchanged, delivery secured. Walking out, James felt lighter, as if each step carried them closer to the life he envisioned. But their errands weren't over. At the furniture shop, Diep's hand lingered on the polished doors of a wardrobe, her eyes catching the glow of the wood. James inspected every detail, the sturdiness of the joints, the type of timber, the assurance of durability. They chose a tall wardrobe, a sturdy oak bed, and a simple table. Small purchases, perhaps, but to them, they were fragments of a new life. "Tonight, you and I will sleep in the new house," James said quietly, but with unmistakable pride. The words struck Diep with a rush of emotion. The old house, shelter, hardship, memory, had defined so many years of her life. Now, with every tile and every carved piece of wood, they were stepping beyond survival. They were stepping toward hope. Yet beneath that hope, a shadow stirred in James's chest, an echo from the past he dared not acknowledge. The encounter. The drive back was hushed, lined with trees swaying in the afternoon breeze. Diep leaned against the window, eyelids heavy, while Nee dozed peacefully in the backseat. James kept his eyes on the road, already envisioning where each piece of furniture would stand. Then, suddenly, he slowed the car near the old market. His gaze had locked onto a figure walking along the roadside. The man's cap shaded his face, but James knew instantly. His chest tightened. "Diep," he said quietly, "wait here." She looked up, startled. "What is it?" James opened the door and stepped out, each stride heavier than the last. The man lifted his head, and James's breath caught. "John." His voice was sharp with disbelief. The last memory he held of John was inside a courtroom, 5 years ago, when the sentence was handed down. John should still be behind bars. "James," the man said faintly, with a worn smile. "It's been a long time." James froze. "How are you out already?" "My father confessed everything." "He gave up the company, the wealth. He paid the price. That's why I was released." Suspicion burned in James's eyes. "And you expect me to believe that? After everything, the lies, the schemes, the pain? Do you think I'll trust you again?" John's voice cracked, not with anger but with fatigue. "I have nothing left. My family is gone, scattered. I carry their shame, and my own. I don't want revenge anymore. I don't even know where to go." James studied him. The memories were raw: betrayal, sleepless nights, scars etched deep. Yet before him now stood not the ruthless adversary of years past, but a hollow man, worn thin by regret. Still, James's voice was iron. "Listen to me, John. If you touch Diep, or my family again, I won't show mercy." "I will end it with my own hands." John nodded, his eyes empty of fire. "I understand." "I don't ask for forgiveness. Only a chance to live without hatred." Behind them, Diep stepped from the car, her breath quickening. She had heard the name, felt the weight of danger in James's tone. The ghost of their past was standing before her. The choice. That evening, James wrestled with the decision. "He has nowhere to go," he murmured. "If I leave him out there, he may fall back into the dark. But if I let him in, I put us at risk." Diep placed a hand on his arm. "Hatred heals nothing. My grandmother always said, don't strike the one who runs away." It is mercy that brings true change. Perhaps he deserves one chance, not for his sake, but for ours. So we can live without bitterness. James admired her compassion but feared it would be her undoing. Yet her voice was steady, unshaken. At last, he agreed, John could stay in her old house. Not theirs anymore, not truly. They were moving forward. When James told John, the man was stunned. You would do this for me? Don't mistake kindness for blindness, James warned. This is only a chance. Nothing more. A fragile new beginning. Nights in the new home were strange yet beautiful. Fresh paint on the walls, the gleam of wooden floors, the gentle hum of crickets. James tucked knee into bed, kissed her forehead, then stood quietly in the lamp's glow. Diep wandered through the living room, fingertips grazing the smooth new table. It feels like a blank page, she whispered. Yes, James murmured, wrapping his arms around her. No shadows, only us. But even as he said it, the thought of John lingered. In the old house, John sat alone, a candle flickering against worn walls. Regret pressed against him, not as a curse, but as a lesson. His whisper was almost prayer-like. Thank you, James. Thank you, Diep. I won't waste this chance. Weeks later, life settled into rhythm. James rebuilt his business with quiet determination. Diep filled the home with warmth. Me's laughter returned to their evenings. From afar, the old house was no longer abandoned. Sometimes, Diep would see John sweeping the yard, mending a fence, keeping his distance. Slowly, his face softened, his shoulders less burdened. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the fields gold, James stood on the porch of their new home. Diep joined him, her hand slipping into his. Do you think he's truly changed? She asked softly. James exhaled. I don't know. But for the first time, I don't feel anger when I think of him. Maybe that's the change that matters most, not in him, but in us. Diep leaned against his shoulder. Then let the past rest. We have our future. The lesson. Their story is more than survival, more than reconciliation. It is a lesson. Forgiveness does not erase wounds, but it lightens the heart. To let go is not to forget, but to choose not to be bound by bitterness. Redemption is possible, not because it is deserved, but because someone dares to believe in it. The old house stood as a reminder, not of pain, but of the distance they had traveled. And in that reminder lay the strength to begin again.